Imagine witnessing a catastrophic earthquake ripping through a major, densely populated city. The ground violently shakes, and you watch in absolute horror as massive, modern buildings, constructed with advanced steel and heavy concrete, completely shatter and collapse into dust. We place our absolute trust in modern engineering because we believe that industrial cement creates the strongest possible physical structures. Therefore, we naturally assume that any primitive, ancient building would instantly crumble under the exact same extreme seismic pressure. But if you travel to the highly active seismic zones of the Andes Mountains or the historic castle grounds of Japan, you will discover a completely terrifying architectural paradox. During massive historical earthquakes that effortlessly leveled heavy colonial brick structures, the ancient stone walls of the Incas and the Japanese samurai stood completely intact. These massive, ancient structures did not survive because they were reinforced with superior industrial cement or hidden metal supports. They survived specifically because they completely lacked any mortar at all. For centuries, modern builders completely ignored this primitive technique, assuming it was just a backwards method of stacking rocks. But today, elite seismic engineers are desperately rushing to reverse engineer this forgotten, ancient geometry. They are realizing that our modern obsession with rigid concrete might be a fatal architectural mistake, and the key to surviving future earthquakes was already perfected thousands of years ago by ancient stonemasons. To understand why our modern cities are so incredibly vulnerable to seismic activity, you must first understand the fatal physical flaw of traditional mortar. When modern builders construct a brick wall, they use chemical cement to permanently glue the pieces together, creating one massive, rigid monolith. This works perfectly under normal static conditions because the cement holds everything tightly in place against the pull of gravity. But an earthquake does not apply normal static pressure to a building. It sends violent, chaotic shockwaves that force the ground to whip back and forth in multiple unpredictable directions. Because the glued wall is completely rigid, it simply cannot absorb or distribute this massive kinetic energy. Therefore, the weak cement instantly cracks under the immense shearing force, causing the entire rigid wall to undergo a catastrophic and sudden, explosive failure. The ancient Inca and Japanese builders intuitively recognized this massive vulnerability long before modern physics even existed. Therefore, they decided to completely eliminate the glue from their architectural equation. They utilized a brilliant technique known today as dry stone polygonal masonry. Instead of forcing stones into perfectly uniform rectangles, they meticulously carved massive, asymmetrical blocks with incredibly complex multi-angled joints. They fitted these heavy stones together with such extreme surgical precision that you could not even slide a single piece of paper between the massive joints. This solid yet mortarless design completely revolutionized how human structures interacted with the volatile earth. By completely removing the rigid mortar, the ancient builders accidentally created a highly advanced kinetic energy dissipation system. When a massive earthquake strikes an Inca fortress, the complex dry stone wall does not attempt to violently resist the destructive shockwave. Instead, the individual asymmetrical blocks are physically allowed to move and breathe. The stones actually shift, slide, and slightly rotate against each other during the violent seismic tremors. Modern structural engineers observing this incredible kinetic phenomenon refer to them as dancing stones. Because the blocks are carved with complex interlocking geometric traps, they can briefly lift and separate to absorb the massive shock, but they are physically prevented from falling out of place. The intense physical friction between the rough, heavy stones burns off the destructive seismic energy, safely converting it into harmless heat and slight physical displacement. Therefore, instead of snapping like a brittle concrete pillar, the ancient wall briefly behaves like a flexible, living organism. Once the violent earthquake finally stops, The massive sheer gravity of the asymmetrical stones naturally pulls them right back into their original locking positions. They simply settle back into place, completely undamaged and perfectly ready for the next massive geological disaster. The ancient architects essentially invented a brilliant mechanical shock absorber using absolutely nothing but raw, carved stone and the invisible laws of gravity. But the absolute genius of this forgotten technology extends far beneath the visible surface of the Earth. The ancient builders knew that even the most brilliantly flexible wall would instantly collapse if the ground beneath it liquefied or washed away during a disaster. Therefore, they dedicated a staggering amount of their physical resources to invisible subterranean engineering. Modern ground-penetrating radar reveals that nearly 60% of the entire physical structure of Machu Picchu is actually buried deep underground. The Incas constructed massive, complex drainage systems and deep, stabilizing foundations to ensure the earth itself would never shift beneath their dancing stones. Meanwhile, on the exact opposite side of the planet, Japanese castle builders were utilizing the exact same brilliant physical principles. They constructed massive sloping stone foundations called ishigaki to protect their wooden fortresses. These heavy, slanted, dry stone walls acted as an impenetrable seismic shield, absorbing the violent horizontal shocks of the notorious Japanese fault lines. The wooden castles built on top of these stones were incredibly light and flexible, allowing the entire massive structure to safely ride the violent seismic waves like a ship floating over a turbulent ocean. These two entirely disconnected ancient civilizations independently engineered the exact same brilliant solution to one of the most destructive natural forces on the planet, proving the universal perfection of their methods. Today, the global engineering community is experiencing a massive and deeply humbling paradigm shift. After decades of arrogantly dismissing ancient masonry as primitive historical artifacts, structural engineers are now actively treating these ruins as highly advanced mechanical blueprints. Modern construction companies are utilizing highly complex computer simulations to understand exactly how the ancient polygonal blocks safely distribute kinetic energy. Therefore, cutting-edge technology startups are now literally using massive, three-dimensional printers to physically recreate this ancient interlocking geometry for modern housing. They are manufacturing complex, mortarless building blocks designed to safely slide and lock together during major earthquakes, completely eliminating the need for brittle chemical cement. We are slowly realizing that true architectural strength does not always come from rigid, unyielding resistance against the forces of nature. Sometimes, the absolute best way to survive a catastrophic force is to gracefully move perfectly along with it. The ancient dancing stones stand today as a towering permanent monument to human ingenuity, proving that our ancient ancestors possessed a deep, profound understanding of natural physics. Therefore, the next great revolution in modern architectural safety will not come from inventing a new chemical superconcrete. It will come from deeply respecting and accurately copying the forgotten, brilliant geometry of the ancient world.